Welcome back, everyone. If you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving. We got 2 videos in 1 week. What is going on? So this week we're picking up right where we left off. We're gonna get into fabricating the concrete sink and countertop for the future guest bathroom that I'm in right now. But before we get into that, I wanna get everybody on the same page and share where I'm at with the guest bath design. I've got a model here. And I'm not going with anything crazy as far as the layout. It's a 5x11 bathroom. I'm going with a pretty standard narrow and long bathroom layout. Over here, we already got the hole drilled for the toilet at one end. So in the middle here, we're gonna have a floating countertop. And then we'll have a good sized shower at the end here, full 5-foot width. Door will be in the middle right by the sink. So as far as the model goes, I made a floating sink that is designed to be visible on the sides now. So the 2 separators that you see there are actually not going to be there. We're just going to go with a real minimalist design, floating countertop with some cabinets that I think will kind of float underneath the floating countertop. Double floaty, what's not to love? And before we get into the fabrication of that countertop and sink, let's take a quick look at the sort of what I'm thinking as far as the designs. I actually went through a few iterations of it, some that were a lot more complex, kind of a cubert hexagon scheme, sort of staggered geometric step pattern, then a sort of like multifaceted shape. So once I'd mocked up a few ideas, had a general idea of what I wanted in SketchUp, I moved over to Fusion 360 to design the sink in detail and ended up with this kind of faceted, much simpler design. And I actually ended up changing that design a little bit more halfway through the video. And we'll get into the reasons for that later. But first up, we gotta head to the workshop and cut down the melamine form. And actually super excited because this is the first real project in the new workshop. First time using that table saw really for anything. And yeah, just kind of exciting to get things going. So this is about to be the very first cut on the table saw since I moved it over to this shop. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. I hope the movers didn't screw it up. So this cutoff is exactly 1.5 inches, which is exactly what I need for the backside of the form. Like, how lucky is that? Time for me to buy a lotto ticket. Getting everything prepped to make the sink knockout, which is just gonna be the negative of the shape of the sink, which we're gonna carve out of foam. And this is just 2-inch foamular. Glue up 3 panels of this to make a 6-inch tall foam block, put it on the CNC, and carve a really cool sink shape out of that. One other cool thing with this stuff, it actually comes pre-scored. So you can kind of go Bo Jackson style and just bam. Alright, so we are about coming up on time for another haircut here. Way past it, actually. So now we've got all these foam pieces cut out. We get to stack them together and create one large block that we can cut the sink mold from. And we're just gonna kind of glue those together with some general purpose adhesive and then throw them on the CNC. Zip, a second ahead. So yeah, I am having a few growing pains with the new camera. I thought I was recording that, and I wasn't, but spray adhesive on here, very light so it doesn't dissolve the foam. Now we got ourselves a big monolithic block of foam that we can carve from. Let's do it. This one is gonna be deemed a learning experience because it did not go as planned. This is definitely not supposed to be hollow. It's making these step downs, which will then be later cut into a smooth, flat surface in the shape of the sink. But yeah, I have no idea why it's doing that. I'm just learning the software, learning this whole process. So I must have screwed something up. I'm going to go back to the drawing board and see what's wrong with my model. And I redid the model, got another one cut up, took a couple hours, and back in business. Hopefully, third time's a charm. Usually it's third time's a charm, but I've failed 3 times now. I basically just bit off more than it was feasible to learn in the time that was allowed. I thought that the sink form was pretty simple, but there were some things about it with the sharp edges and the steep walls that made it actually kind of tricky to machine. I went back to the drawing board, came up with a shallower model, and I think it's going to be a lot easier to machine. So I've ran some simulations, and let me just show you what we're going to be doing in this final pass. Well, hopefully final. So you can see the paths of the bit's going to go through the material here, preview it, and hopefully that lets me know it's going to be okay. This is called a clearing pass first that takes away sort of the bulk material, leaves a sort of stair-step pattern, and then the top of those stairs just gets whittled off with a very fine pass on the finishing run that should give you a nice smooth finished surface for the end form. All right, so let's head out to the machine and give this a go. Cross your fingers. I don't want to remake this stock piece again. I think we got the clearing pass working. So now we got to cross our fingers and hope that second finishing pass works like it's supposed to. Let's give it a go. It is 2 in the morning, and I'm relieved that on the 4th try, 5th try, I don't know, I'm losing count, finally looks pretty good. We got some nice sharp edges. There are a couple imperfections. Because I'm going to be putting joint compound on it to smooth it, and then epoxy, I might not even need to remake it. I might be able to use it as is, but it's 2 in the morning, so we're going to figure out the next step tomorrow morning. Back today. Not perfect. I think I could get it pretty much perfect if I did it again, but I'm just gonna give it a go. See, maybe I don't need to make it again because I'm gonna be using joint compound left over from the wall we did a couple videos ago to basically fill this in, smooth it out, give it a nice surface that I can then put some tabletop epoxy on to make it waterproof so I can pour concrete over it. Kind of press it in, and then comes sideways to get it smooth. We're back the next day, and the joint compound is dried. I ended up doing about 3 layers of it, and I think we successfully just smooth all these surfaces over. I'm going to give it a final sanding, and then we're going to pour some epoxy on this so we can get to constructing the form. The joint compound smoothed everything out, super nice, really happy how it came out. And now with the layer of epoxy, any small imperfections that are left should be smoothed out. And that's because we're going to be using tabletop epoxy, which is self-leveling. I'll leave a link in the description if y'all are interested. I'm also going to be adding some colored pigments to the epoxy. That helps me get an idea that I've got even coverage. I'll change the color on each coat so that I know when I do a second coat that I've completely covered over the first coat because it'll be a different color. Oh, hey guys, hold on one second. That's the sponsor, ARIAT. I gotta take this call real quick. Hold on. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that ad read thing. It's the holidays, and I feel like they've all seen me wearing all your clothes for the last few videos, all the boots, everything. Like, why don't we just like give them a gift and just not do an ad read? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's even better. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Okay, this is awesome. I just got off the phone with ARIAT Work, who's the sponsor of this video. They said because you guys already know I love their clothes, I'm rocking them all the time, that I don't have to do a full ad read or anything like that. Instead, they just want me to give away two $100 gift certificates, which you can use at their Black Friday sale going on right now, or after that if you want to spend a little more, but hey, I'd do it now. And all you got to do to enter is leave a comment in this video that says ARIAT Work. Make sure you spell it right. And do that by 3 p.m. Central Time on Friday. At that point, I'm going to use the YouTube random comment picker and pick out 2 winners. I'll announce those winners in a YouTube community post on Friday afternoon, so make sure you're checking there to see if you won. I'm not going to be asking for your personally identifying information or anything like that, so it's going to be on you guys to check there and see if you won, because I won't have a way to track you down. Once I announce the winners, you'll have 24 hours to contact me, let me know, and then I'll get in touch and get you the gift certificate code. Now, I love you guys, and I know everyone out there is super honest, but if you do win, I will be verifying to make sure that you have the email account that's associated with the winning YouTube user ID. And also that you live in the US. Yet, sorry to my international viewers, because of silly US laws, this contest is only open to people in the US. So we don't have to do an ad read. Make sure you enter the contest, comment ARIAT Work by this Friday at 3 p.m. Check the community post. I'll announce winners there. That's it. Let's get back to the video. So this is my makeshift desk that I just threw together in the workshop. A lot of YouTubers have their dream desk setups they love to show off, and right now, you gotta excuse this, it is just a I need to get shit done setup. So this is the main sink design here, and I was thinking about where to put the toilet paper holder, and I thought it would be really cool to do a recessed cavity, sort of a semicircle that goes into the side of this countertop. So then I created a second model that's sort of the inverse of that cavity, and that's the thing I'm going to 3D print and use that negative of the cavity as a mold. So let's get to 3D printing that knockout. Time to unbox the 3D print, and one thing I love is there's like this magnetic build plate. Just pops right out, and then you just basically bend it, and it should pop right off. Whew. That's pretty. Almost can't even see the print lines in that. Look how clean that is. I really can't believe it was like 3 weeks ago when I cut all these melamine pieces down. If you saw my last video, you know I basically started cutting this, then I realized I needed something to cast it on because I wasn't gonna cast in here, so there was just this whole sequence of events. But now we are finally ready to assemble the form for the guest bath concrete sink. I'm gonna share one of my deepest, darkest secrets with you guys. I'm obsessed with my caulk gun. I travel on planes when I go to do collaborations with other makers. I bring my own caulk gun. They all make fun of me, but you gotta have a good caulk gun. So it is not lightly that I say I'm excited to try a new caulk gun. Electric, battery-powered caulk gun, yeah. I'm excited to give this RIDGID bad boy a go. The form for the recessed TP holder slot, all nice and smooth. Now we can just attach that to the side with some silicone before we put the sides on. Look like a curly Q mustache. What do we think? By the way, I'm caulking this form in 2 stages because it's just gonna be easier. There's parts like down around this drain plug that if the wall is here are hard to get the caulk gun in there. And this TP holder is a lot easier to get into place lying on the table than when the wall is up on the side. Actually gonna go on that side, but you get the idea. So when we cast the concrete countertop, we're gonna do it on the casting table that I made in the last video. And there were a few really common questions that I got about this table. And before we use it, I wanna just take a second to address those here. So the number one question I got from dozens of people was, why did I leave a big gap between the 2 halves of the table? It kind of seems counterintuitive. So the split provides a lot of flexibility for clamping if you've got smaller items. You can just drop a clamp right through, slide it in, and boom. Your workpiece is held down. It just makes it way easier to work on things if they're not moving around on you. And the last question, well, was actually 2 things. 1, why did I not have a dust collection system? And 2, why didn't I recycle the sawdust? The dust collection system is definitely going to happen, but I want to get a big 240 volt dust collection system. I've only got one 240 volt outlet right now. It's being used by the CNC. So that's why it isn't hooked up. I have to get the electrical done upstairs, which require the permits before I can start messing with the electrical down in the shop. Now, as for recycling sawdust, I'm embarrassed to admit this, I actually didn't know that was a thing. And unfortunately, I did some Googling and I can't find anything or any place that will recycle sawdust anywhere near me in the city of Chicago. If any of you guys have ideas in Chicago, please let me know. I did find some pretty interesting ideas for DIY sawdust furnaces, and it's cold in here, so that sounds pretty cool, but we just got the permits. We got to get cracking on the reno, so that's probably a back burner project. It is concrete day. I've done this like probably 20 times, spraying concrete, making countertop sinks, all kinds of stuff. Every time I do it, I get nervous because once you mix the concrete, like the clock is just ticking and you're kind of racing against it. We're gonna cover this thing up, cover the car up, and then get going. And for my next magic trick, we'll turn this 2016 GTI into a Ferrari Testarossa. Just kidding, we're not gonna do that. All right. If you want to do some like high-end, ultra nice concrete, fish tone concrete mixes, I'm using an HP 50 mix here. Check them out or hit me up in DMs if you want any advice. Definitely like a whole other ball game from your stuff you just buy at your big box stores. The GFRC mix I'm using is naturally super white, and I want to get kind of a medium gray. So I'm using a black iron oxide pigment. It's a powder pigment, so you can weigh it out and be really precise. Makes it easy to color match between the coats, so you can get a consistent color and not have like splotchy parts when you're doing multiple coats of concrete. Adding these alkali resistant glass fibers instead of any other kind of rebar or whatever, super strong reinforcement, so you can go super thin, about 3/4 of an inch thick on this concrete. So this is the same mix as we used on that face coat that we sprayed. We used a little bit less water and added the glass fiber. And you can see it's almost like Play-Doh here. That allows us to just pack it up the sides, and it just takes a little practice if you're working with this stuff just to kind of get a feel for the mix, so you can kind of change it and make it how you want, so you can do different things with it. It's been a long day, and we still got one more coat to go. I don't know if the camera battery's gonna last when we record what we can. Let's just get it done. Alright, so I'm all done packing that in. Long day. I want to show you a couple things I think are kind of cool I did here. First, I learned from past mistakes. I built kind of a plateau right around the mold for the slot drain, so that on the underside, when we put the drain pan on there, there'll be something flat to put it against. Second, I made the decision last minute to move the faucet to the very end of the sink. And I'm planning to put 2 steel posts coming out of the wall to mount this thing on, and I realized that, well, the faucet was gonna be exactly where I was gonna put the steel posts. So I basically just sculpted up 2 flat bars that'll give me 2 flat surfaces that I can put steel bars underneath. Pretty happy that I remembered to do that now instead of when I was going to install the sink. It is concrete Christmas, time to demold the countertop sink. But first, we gotta grind those rough edges down at the top, and that is a messy job, so I gotta suit up. But wait, there's more. Normal safety glasses will not suffice. You need the full-on goggles. Woo! Oh yeah, oh yeah. Whew, it's like the concrete Sahara in here. Last step, go over it with some diamond hand sanding pads up to 200 grit just to make it a little smoother and more even. Oh yeah, that pops right out. Look at that. Pops right out. The easiest way I've found to finish concrete, get it like a nice sort of satin smooth look to it, it's just taking 400 grit sandpaper, by hand wet sand it real quick. Just have to go over each spot for like 10 seconds, right when it's tender and out of the form, like an hour later after it's just slightly firmed up. Just do that quick pass wet and you get a really nice finish. Then you can throw a slurry on and call it a day. And you might have noticed it's a little splotchy right when you take it out of the form. This quick hand sand just evens out the color, gives it a nice, smooth, sort of gray cream. Looks really good.
So now we've got an approximately 180 pound structure, and I told you guys that we're gonna make that thing float off the wall. So I know a lot of people are gonna wonder, how the heck are we gonna install that so it doesn't come crashing down? The idea I have is to fabricate some steel brackets that will be bolting and epoxying straight to the brick wall. And for that, I get to have some more fun with my new welder. So now we've got some nice, really beefy steel brackets that will hold a ton of weight. And what I want to do is bolt these onto the brick wall. Now these are actually pretty long and we don't want these to be visible. But here's the thing. We're actually going to install these against the brick, then the drywall is going to be in front of them. So drywall will be around right here. Only this part will be visible and that will be hidden underneath the sink. It will look totally floating when we get it installed. Now I'd actually hoped to get these installed today and actually bring the sink up here and just throw it against the wall so we could get a visual of that right now. Also, I'm kind of like a kid on Christmas. I just wanted to see it myself. But I ran into an issue. There's a big sort of hump in the bricks here, and this kind of teeter-totters back and forth. So I got to come up with some sort of shimming system so that this is level. I haven't figured that out yet, but I also haven't had a lot of time to think about it. And I've got a little time before we get the drywall in. Maybe some of you guys have some good ideas for shimming this up. Leave a comment if you do. I'd love some suggestions. So I think that's as far as we're gonna get on the bathroom this time. But as you know, we just got the permits. I met with all the subcontractors yesterday. We're gonna get going on HVAC next week. Electrical will follow. Then we're gonna rough in the walls. Then this bathroom is gonna be the first area where I start putting finishes. So once this bath is functioning and we got some floors in, I can just throw a mattress on the floor. And then I can move in and live here, and then things will start going even faster as I work on the kitchen, master bath, and so on. So enough yapping for me. If you haven't checked out the other videos in the abandoned building playlist, hit them up now. That's it for this time, and I'll see you next time.